Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Knicks Daily here. Today we're going to be discussing a couple of things. Nikola Vucevic, Brook Lopez, and Miles McBride. We're also going to get into the campaign signing. We're going to get into Tyler Kolek. We're going to get into a Tom Thibodeau extension. We've got a lot to talk about, so make sure you watch to the end. Let's get right into it. So a league executive says that if the Knicks trade for Chicago Bulls center Nikola Vucevic, they would have the firepower to go toe-to-toe with the Celtics on both sides of the court. Quote, the Knicks, that is not really Tom's kind of big man, but when you look at Boston, they can play 5 out, they can put 5 shooters on the floor. That is going to be key for any team that wants to keep up with them. The Knicks can't do that, but you add in a guy like Vucevic, and that's a game changer, end quote. Tom Thibodeau, as we know, prefers an old school style big man. He likes his centers to protect the rim, set hard screens, and be a physical presence inside the paint. Vucevic would give the Knicks a totally new dimension to explore. In 76 games last season, and by the way, 76 games, I mean, Mitch has played 70 plus games once in his 6-year career, so that is something to note, is that Vucevic tends to be available. But he averaged 18 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 3.3 assists on average. He shot 48.4% from the field, although he did hit just 29.4% of his three-point attempts. He is a 34% career three-point shooter, which is not that bad, I guess, for a center, especially. You'll take that. But overall, I would love to add in Vucevic, but I definitely would not want to add him in on the contract that he currently has because he's making a ton of money. I mean, this is a guy who has 2 years left on his 3-year, $60 million contract. We would have to trade Julius Randle or Mitchell Robinson for Vucevic. But if he does get bought out, then absolutely sign me up, because if we can have a stretch big off of the bench that's available, that's durable, that has been in the league for a while, I mean, why would we not do that, right? I mean, he's a huge upgrade over Jericho Sims. I mean, he's certainly an upgrade over Huck Party, who was the last pick in the second round and is on a 2-way contract. So I would do that. There's no doubt about it. If we can get him for vets a minimum or something like that, like a campaign type of deal. I don't know why we wouldn't do that, but the likelihood of him being bought out probably is low because the Bulls can just trade him and one of the younger players and get something good in return. So I don't think they'll do that, but I just wanted to add that in because I thought it was interesting and we haven't talked about Vucevic on the channel. So overall, let's talk about my next point, and that's going to be Nick Richards. Why does Nick Richards have anything to do with the Knicks right now? Well, because the Knicks, of course, called to trade for him. And Ian Begley said that essentially what's happening right now is that teams are using leverage against the Knicks. So, for example, the Knicks, they call the Hornets, and you would think that, oh, Nick Richards, okay, well, he's only making $5 million the next 2 seasons, so $10 million, $5 million against the cap. He's probably not going to cost very much. He's 26. He's a backup center, right? That's not been the case. Teams are trying to get a lot out of the Knicks for, I'm not going to say little because Nick Richards is a valuable asset, but giving up Miles McBride for Nick Richards, and I have heard some of the top tier Knicks pages talk about that, about giving up Miles McBride for Nick Richards. And although it does make a little bit of sense because we have Devo, we have Mikal Bridges, we have Campaign, we have Tyler Kolek, we have Jalen Brunson. Where the hell is Miles McBride going to play? But then you start to think, well, the Knicks already came out and said that McBride will be part of our 8-man rotation. McBride is an off-ball guard, which explains a lot because if he's an off-ball guard, well, now he's playing with Devo and Mikal Bridges. He's not playing with Kolek, Payne, and Brunson. I don't know how that in the world he would be able to get into that side of the ball. But for the 2 guard, he absolutely can because Devo can play the 1, the 2, the 3. Mikal Bridges is the same thing. He can play multiple positions. Josh Hart can play multiple positions. He can play the 3. He can play the 4. He could probably even play the 5 at times. Not starting center, but Josh Hart can certainly probably play center for us with the way he rebounds in certain types of situations. So the Knicks are very versatile, and Miles McBride will find a way onto the court according to this coaching staff and this organization. So the fact that he's going to play means that then we shouldn't be giving him up, right? Let's go out and let's get a backup center that we can trade for without giving up one of our top 8 guys, or we can just sign one in free agency. And that's exactly what Begley reported, is that where the Knicks are at right now is they're expected to go into training camp with their current roster, but with a veteran center via free agency, or a guy like a Precious Achiuwa, who's 24 years old, who's unsigned. I mean, that's exactly where the Knicks are at, guys. I'm telling you what Begley reported, what's being talked about in the organization. Do not expect the Knicks to trade for a backup center, so no Clint Capella, no Brook Lopez. It's just not going to happen. No Alperen Şengün, Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren. which to me is understandable because teams are going to demand a lot out of the Knicks because they know that the Knicks need that, right? It's not like the Knicks are just exploring their options and they don't really care if they get one or don't. Like, the Knicks need a center. So I expect them to go out and to get a Daniel Tice or a JaVale McGee or a Dwight Howard on vets minimum, and that would be their backup center, which is kind of scary because if Mitchell Robinson gets injured like he has the past like 4 seasons, well, all of a sudden now you're relying again on a Daniel Tice to come in and to start. Yeah, Tice, 2019-20, I believe it was the starting center on an Eastern Conference Final Boston team. But I don't think Daniel Tice is as good as he was then, and the Eastern Conference has gotten a lot more difficult. Philadelphia, Boston, Cleveland's going to be good. And that's just at the top of my head. I can't even recall. The Pacers are only going to get better. There's a lot of good teams in the East right now. So the Milwaukee Bucks is a team that I didn't mention, right? So we're not beating any of those teams besides Indiana, because we would have swept Indiana if we were healthy. There's just no question about it. But outside of the other teams, we're probably not beating them without Mitchell Robinson. So that's why it's important for him to stay healthy or to get somebody who can stay healthy, like a Clint Capella or a Brook Lopez. But it's not looking like the Knicks are going to do that. So my next point is going to be about the Cameron Payne signing. So my first reaction to the signing was essentially that, okay, look, they're trying to ease Tyler Kolek in. They don't want to rely on a second-round rookie to be the backup point guard on a Eastern Conference contender. But then I started to think more about it, and to me, this essentially is actually the backup point guard, right? I don't think Tyler Kolek is going to be a huge piece to our team next season, and that's not even a hate on Kolek because he's killed it in the summer league and I think he's NBA ready. But Cameron Payne has a ton of playoff experience. The past 4 seasons he's been a legit part of the Suns and the Bucks rotation. I believe he was with the Bucks. I knew he was with the Suns, but he's also a huge friend, a big time friend of Mikal Bridges. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's a very efficient career 3-point shooter. You put all that together, I mean, the Knicks legitimately now have Cameron Payne, Miles McBride, and Jalen Brunson at point guard. Now, I consider McBride a 2 guard. The Knicks said he's an off-ball guard, but again, they're listing him as a point guard on the depth chart, which means he's a point guard, whatever, right? So that's a big-time piece for Cam Payne to get vets a minimum. I mean, you can't really ask for a much better third-string point guard than Cameron Payne. Like, go and look at each team. They're not going to have a point guard probably even close to as good as Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne's a backup point guard, but he's our 3rd string. But he's more than likely going to serve as our 2. I'm not going to lie to you guys, just because McBride's going to be playing off ball. But still, it's just pretty crazy to think about. Now, the thing with Tyler Kolek, and this is something that Knicks Fan TV talked about yesterday. I was listening to him on YouTube. Shout out to him, man. He's killing it, man. The best Knicks channel overall on the platform. He said that Tyler Kolek, his defense just isn't ready. And although this makes a lot of sense, and Tyler Kolek was never known for his defense or athleticism, but it's something I never thought about, is that Coach Tibb, he's a defensive-minded coach. You've got to be able to defend. Tyler Kolek defensively is not ready. Offensively, I believe he is ready. He's about just as good as it gets for a 2nd-round pick or a rookie overall with the way he sees the floor and his vision. But his defense is going to hold him back, right? So that's the thing with Kolek, is I think the next couple of seasons we're going to see a lot of him. But this year, I don't expect much of him. The Knicks will keep him on the roster because if there's an injury to Jalen Brunson, Miles McBride, Cam Payne, well, Kolek's going to step in. And if he plays well, then he could end up keeping the spot. Like, who really knows, right?